We have a major disclosure update. Journalist Michael Shellenberger of Public spoke with a senior advisor to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who confirmed that Rubio believes the basic narrative about UAP crashes, retrieval, and technology transfer, as presented in the Amazon Prime documentary, The Age of Disclosure, is true. And the senior advisor to Rubio also predicted, quote, "We're headed toward massive disclosure," meaning Rubio and those around him expect a major official revelation on this topic in the relatively near future.
And I know that they are discussing internally how they're going to react to the film publicly.
So that was Dan Farrar, the director of the movie The Age of Disclosure. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast the day that it published, which was November 21st. And in that clip, he was saying that the Trump administration is discussing how they're going to respond to his film, which is very relevant to what Rubio's senior advisor reportedly said, according to journalist Michael Shellenberger, that massive disclosures on UFOs are coming.
I say that there's hope. Certainly, Congress values whistleblower information right now, and certainly I believe there's an appetite with the administration to do the right thing on this as well. And there's some other things that are happening behind the scenes that I'll let the administration discuss when they're ready.
That aired on November 21 on Fox News on the special report with Bret Baier. And David Grush, who, as you know, is a UFO whistleblower, he's also the special advisor to the UAP task force. Well, in that clip, he said that other things are happening behind the scene, and I'll let the administration discuss what's happening behind the scene when they are ready. Well, maybe they are beginning to be ready on the basis that a senior advisor to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said, "We are headed toward massive disclosure on the UFO issue." In the following clip, Dan Farrar is speaking about President Trump. Listen very carefully.
And I also know that he has recently, very recently, tasked Tulsi Gabbard with getting to the bottom of the situation and finding out for him what he needs to know that he doesn't know.
Why would Trump task Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard to get to the bottom of it and find out what he needs to know, of which he doesn't know? To me, that's signaling that Trump is trying to get all his ducks in a row so that he's prepared for the potential disclosure event that Trump himself wants to disclose and is planning to do it before the end of his presidency.
So, I mean, is there anything, we've had some declassification of some very strange videos that look like they are, unidentified flying objects. Is there anything in the files that you think you could find or you have found?
Nothing that I'm prepared to talk about today.
So watch this space.
Say what?
Watch this space.
We are I'm just going to say this. We're continuing to look for the truth and share that truth with the American people.
So there you have it. That's from August, when Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was on Pod Force One podcast with Miranda Devine. She said she couldn't share anything today, but she's looking into it for the function of ultimately sharing what she finds with the American people. If President Trump tasked her to do this with the intention of producing that information for the public, then that is a planned disclosure that hasn't unfolded yet. So that is in line with whoever journalist Shellenberger spoke to, that was is the advisor, a senior advisor to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that there is going to be a massive disclosure soon.
This technology, to quote Hal Puthoff in the film, he says, this is the key to interstellar travel. this is the key to exploring the galaxy. This is the key to things that sound like science fiction, like teleportation. All these things that could just revolutionize humanity and like the trajectory of our species are being held back out of the fear that the technology will be used for evil, right?
So in that light, UFO whistleblower David Grush spoke about this on June 11th, 2023, about how these technologies that have allegedly been recovered could revolutionize the human experience, improve the quality of life on Earth, but yet it's sequestered away from the public scientific world.
It's totally nuts that humanity as a whole, especially the U.S. citizenry as a whole, they're not even benefiting from broad research on this to solve propulsion, energy issues, novel material science that can improve people's quality of life. It's just totally nuts how it's been protected and inhibits progress.
And so, I love Hal Puthoff. I've gotten very close with him, and he makes
fascinating guy.
Fascinating guy. He's the most interesting person I've ever met in my life. He makes a great point in the film of saying he believes, despite the risks this technology could be used for bad, he believes we should make it known and make it a humanitarian issue of how we all collectively go about safely using this technology to change the world for the better and avoid destruction. And we've done that. We have a blueprint for that with nuclear technology, right? Like, there are nuclear weapons. That stuff's classified. We wish they didn't exist, but it does exist. And then we also use nuclear energy for good.
That would actually be a brilliant way for the Trump administration to disclose to the public that we're not alone. If they focused on how the intention is to make this technology a humanitarian issue, focusing on how we can all collectively benefit from understanding it and applying it technologically to our world, that would focus the attention on how this reality can benefit us. And to some extent, I think it would distract the public from anger over what's preceded that moment, which is the multi-decade cover-up. So that would be a brilliant way for the Trump administration to focus when and if they do disclose, which it is looking that way. And just as Ferris said, with nukes, no one is going to give you instructions on how to make a nuclear weapon. But you know what? You can go to any university and study nuclear physics. And that line of study can benefit humankind and has benefited humankind. So I'm hopeful the Trump administration will use this framing when and if it finally discloses.
One of the other things I learned recently that isn't in the film, Jay Stratton, who ran the UAP task force, he told me that during that time, he had started a talk with one of the senior scientists at Lockheed, who was frustrated by how overclassified everything was. It even made it hard for the defense contractors to get the right manpower and brains on it, because not everyone can be cleared to do the work.
So this gets to, as I recollect, one of Secretary of State Marco Rubio's greatest fears, according to Dan Farah, which is that he's worried that an adversary like China might crack the code on how these technologies work before the United States, and then obviously that would have severe national security implications downstream. And so not only do I anticipate, if the Trump administration discloses, will they focus on how they want to make this a humanitarian issue, they will also focus on how this is a new kind of race, like we had with the space race with the Russians. And it's essential that the United States learns how to duplicate this technology before an adversary so that we can maintain our national security. So I'm sure Marco Rubio, in that light, wants the classification to become broader so that more minds can have access to these technologies to increase the chance that we crack this technology before any adversary does.
Right. There's all these like red tape hurdles to progress, right? And so they had made a plan to move one of the crafts that had been recovered that was in Lockheed's possession into the possession of the UAP task force. And then the task force was going to be able to put more brain power towards it. And then the head of science and technology at the CIA shut it down.
I want to flag an important discrepancy in the reporting here. In the clips we just heard, it stated that a recovered craft was going to be transferred from Lockheed Martin directly to the UAP task force, and the head of science and technology at the CIA shut it down. However, detailed reporting from Liberation Times places the attempted transfer through a different pipeline entirely, from Lockheed Martin to the DIA's ALSAP program, not to the UAP task force. When that failed, a prospective special access program inside DHS was reportedly attempted as a workaround, with Glenn Gaffney at the CIA allegedly blocking the effort. So the core theme of a block transfer by the CIA is consistent, but the specific institutional pathway does not currently line up across sources. The major premise of this video is that a senior advisor to Secretary of State Marco Rubio was reported to have stated on Rubio's behalf that we are headed toward massive UFO disclosure. When I say Rubio just confirmed it, I'm not saying he personally went on camera and said the words, "massive disclosure is coming." That exact phrase was reported by a journalist as coming from a senior advisor inside Rubio's own office, speaking on the record but anonymously. That same advisor reportedly confirmed that Rubio personally believes the core crash retrieval and exotic technology narrative is true, and that the disclosure prediction reflects Rubio's private position as conveyed to the press, not a public announcement. So this is secondhand insider reporting from within Rubio's circle, not an official public statement by Rubio himself, which is why I felt justified in characterizing it as a confirmation from Rubio's side. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can become a patron, you could become a YouTube member, you could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.